The old warship Dauntless hung in space above New Horizon Colony, its metal skin scratched and worn from many battles. Once the pride of Earth's fleet, the giant ship now served as little more than a showpiece in this faraway star system. Most days, it just floated there, doing nothing while the busy colony workers below went about their lives. Captain Eleanor Wright sipped her coffee and frowned. The bitter taste matched her mood as she watched the security feeds from her small office. The crew quarters felt emptier each month as more of her people got reassigned to newer ships. The Dauntless had been a mighty warship once, but now most people saw it as an old useless relic. "Captain, you're needed on the command deck," said the voice of her second-in-command through the intercom. "The aliens have arrived." Eleanor straightened her uniform and made her way through the quiet corridors. The ship could hold a crew of 500, but now barely 100 remained. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls as they passed by powered-down sections that hadn't been used in years. "Status report," she said, as she stepped onto the bridge. Commander Alan Foster turned from the main view screen, his face serious. "The Vexari fleet just entered our system. 6 ships, all diplomatic class according to their signals. But I'm seeing weapon systems that don't match any known diplomatic vessel." Eleanor nodded. She had expected this. The Vexari Confederation had been expanding their territory for years, taking over weaker systems. Now they had come to New Horizon, probably because of its perfect location near a newly found hyperspace lane. "Put it on screen," she ordered, though display flickered to life, showing 6 crystal-like ships moving in perfect formation. They gleamed like jewels against the blackness of space, their hulls smooth and flawless. Tiny blue lights pulsed along their sides, marking the location of energy weapons far more advanced than anything the humans had. "Quite the show they're putting on," Foster said with a low whistle. Eleanor studied the alien ships with narrowed eyes. "They want us to be impressed. And afraid." Her gaze moved to the tactical display which showed the colony's defenses, a few small gun platforms and the Dauntless itself. If the Vexari decided to attack, the colony wouldn't stand a chance. "Captain, we're being hailed," announced Communications Officer Lisa Chen. "They're requesting permission to dock at the orbital station." "Grant it," Eleanor said, "and inform the colony governor that I'll meet him there in 30 minutes. The orbital station hung in space between the Dauntless and the planet below. It served as New Horizon's main trading hub and diplomatic center. By the time Eleanor arrived, the station buzzed with activity as workers rushed to prepare for the important visitors. Governor Paul Garcia greeted her at the airlock, his face tense despite his forced smile. "Captain Wright, thank you for coming. These talks are crucial for our colony's future." "I know," Eleanor replied. "Just remember that the Vexari rarely do anything without a hidden purpose." They walked together to the grand meeting hall. Through the large windows, Eleanor could see the Dauntless floating in the distance, its hull looking dull and old next to the sleek Vexari ships that had docked nearby. The alien delegation entered the room with perfect coordination. 6 Vexari walked in identical steps, their insect-like bodies covered in shimmering robes. Each stood exactly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and dark exoskeletons that reflected the station's lights. Their faces featured multiple eyes arranged in complex patterns, giving them nearly complete visual awareness. Ambassador Zeth Toril led the group, his head held high. When he spoke, his words came through a translator device hanging at his neck. "Governor Garcia, Captain Wright, the Vexari Confederation extends its greetings to your colony," he said, his voice artificially smooth. "We look forward to establishing beneficial relations between our peoples." The meeting moved to the conference room, where drinks and food had been prepared for both species. As they discussed trade agreements and territory boundaries, Eleanor noticed how the ambassador's eyes kept looking through the viewport at the Dauntless. Finally, he could not contain his curiosity any longer. "Is that a warship?" he asked, his mouth parts clicking with what seemed like amusement. "It appears to be from your early space age." Eleanor felt her jaw tighten. "The Dauntless has served Earth for over 80 years, she stated firmly. Ambassador Zeth Toril made a sound that the translator converted to laughter. How strange that you keep such old relics. In our fleet, we recycle any ship older than 10 years for materials. Why waste resources maintaining outdated technology? We have different values, Eleanor replied coolly. Humans believe some things improve with age. The ambassador's eyes blinked in sequence, a Vexari expression of disbelief. Weapons do not improve with age, Captain. They become obsolete. As the diplomatic talks continued, Eleanor watched the Vexari carefully. They asked too many questions about the colony's defenses, population centers, and resource production. Their interest seemed excessive for a simple diplomatic mission. When the meeting ended, she pulled Foster aside in the hallway. Did you notice how focused they were on our defensive capabilities? She asked quietly. Foster nodded. And they kept looking at the Dauntless like it was some ancient museum piece. I want a full security sweep of the station after they leave, Eleanor ordered, and put the crew on standby alert. Something doesn't feel right. Later that night, Eleanor returned to the Dauntless and walked to a section of the ship that few people ever visited. Using her captain's override codes, she entered a sealed room filled with dust-covered equipment. The ship's original designer had shown her this room 5 years ago, making her promise to keep its secrets. She placed her hand on a scanner hidden beneath a plain metal panel. The device hummed softly as it read her DNA. Access granted, said a computerized voice that hadn't spoken in decades. Welcome, Captain. Lights flickered on across the room, revealing rows of strange machines, unlike anything in the current fleet. The Dauntless held secrets that even the Earth government had forgotten. Experimental systems that had been deemed too powerful after the last Great War. What the Vexari didn't know was that beneath the warship's old, weathered exterior lay dormant systems that hadn't been activated in decades, systems that even most of the human crew didn't know existed. Eleanor smiled grimly as she began the secret diagnostic procedures. The Vexari might laugh at the old relic now, but if trouble came, they would learn a harsh lesson about judging things by their appearance. Captain Eleanor Wright couldn't sleep. For 3 nights since the Vexari diplomats left, she had tossed and turned in her quarters aboard the Dauntless. Something about the aliens' questions bothered her deeply. She got up and walked to the small window. New Horizons lights glowed softly below, with most of the colony's 10,000 people now asleep. The planet looked peaceful, its blue oceans and green forest reminding her of Earth. These people trusted her to keep them safe, but with what? An old ship and a few small defense platforms? Her room computer beeped. Captain, sorry to wake you, came Commander Foster's voice, but something's happening that you need to see. 10 minutes later, Eleanor stood in the ship's command center, staring at the main screen. Red dots blinked at the edge of the system, where nothing should be. They appeared 20 minutes ago, Foster explained, his face tight with worry. The station sensors picked them up coming out of hyperspace. Vexari ships? Eleanor asked, though she already knew the answer. Yes, but not the diplomatic vessels from before. These are warships. Eleanor felt cold fear in her stomach. How many? 23, so far, and more keep coming. Foster pointed to the screen as another red dot appeared. 24 now. Have they answered our messages? No. We've tried all channels. Nothing. Eleanor took a deep breath. Years of training kicked in, pushing aside her fear. Sound the alarm. I want every crew member at their stations in 5 minutes. And tell the colony to begin emergency shelter procedures. Alarms blared throughout the ship as sleeping crew members stumbled from their beds. In the colony below, emergency sirens wailed, sending frightened civilians to the underground bunkers built for just such an emergency. Get me the governor, Eleanor ordered. Governor Garcia's face appeared on screen, his eyes wide with fear. Captain Wright, please tell me this is a drill. It's not. You need to get everyone underground now. We have multiple Vexari warships approaching. But we signed trade agreements. Why would they attack us? Because they want this system. And they think we're weak, Eleanor said simply. How long until all civilians are in the shelters? 2 hours at least. A flash of light cut him off. One of the orbital defense platforms exploded in a ball of fire. The attack had begun. "We don't have 2 hours," Eleanor said. "Do your best. Right out." She turned to the bridge crew, all watching her with scared eyes. "Power up all systems. Prepare for combat." Lieutenant Grace Winters, a young woman who had never seen real battle, worked at the tactical station. Her hands shook slightly as she reported, "Captain, the Vexari fleet is in attack formation. Their weapons are far superior to ours. Even if we were at full power, those ships outclass us in every way." Before Eleanor could answer, a message blasted through all communication channels. A deep, clicking voice spoke in translated English. "Humans of New Horizon, your territory is now claimed by the Vexari Confederation. I am Supreme Hunter Cresceval. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be swift." Eleanor watched the main screen as the second defense platform exploded. The colony's small fighter ships launched, 6 tiny dots moving toward the enemy fleet. They wouldn't last 5 minutes. "Get me a direct channel to that Vexari commander," she ordered. Cresceval's face appeared on screen. Unlike the diplomats, he wore no fancy robes, just armored plates over his exoskeleton. His multiple eyes seemed to glow with pleasure. "Captain of the human Relic," he said mockingly. "Have you called to surrender?" Eleanor stood straight, her voice steady. "This colony is under Earth protection. Your attack is an act of war against all humanity." The alien made a clicking sound. "Your Earth is far away, human. And your protection?" He laughed, a harsh sound through the translator. "That ancient vessel cannot protect itself, let alone a colony." "You might be surprised," Eleanor replied before cutting the connection. She turned to Foster. "Prepare to move the ship between the colony and the Vexari fleet. We need to buy time for the evacuation." "Captain," Foster said quietly, "the Dauntless can't fight that fleet. We'll be destroyed in minutes." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Who said anything about a fair fight? Follow me." She led Foster and Winters to a locked panel near the back of the bridge. Using her handprint and eye scan, she revealed a hidden console, covered in dust. "Captain, what is this?" Winters asked, staring at strange controls and symbols she had never seen in her training. "The real Dauntless," Eleanor replied. She entered a complex code into the panel. "Lieutenant Winters, place your hand here. Authorization right Epsilon 71 Delta." Winters hesitantly put her hand on the scanner. The panel hummed to life, lights flickering across its surface. "When Earth built this ship," Eleanor explained, as she worked, "it was during the darkest days of the resource wars. Our scientists created technologies that were later banned as too dangerous. Instead of destroying these ships, they hid their true abilities and assigned them to quiet sectors." The main lights on the bridge dimmed, then shifted to a deep blue color. Throughout the Dauntless, confused crew members watched as hidden panels opened in walls and ceilings, revealing equipment they had never seen before. "Initiating Lazarus Protocol," Eleanor announced to the ship's computer. A new voice answered, deeper and somehow more alive than the standard computer. "Lazarus Protocol acknowledged. Full systems awakening. Captain, it has been 27 years since my last activation." Winters stared at her console in shock as new screens appeared, showing weapon and defense systems unlike anything in the fleet manuals. "Captain, what are these?" "The reason the Dauntless was never scrapped," Eleanor replied grimly, "and the reason the Vexari are about to regret their attack." In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Peter Ramirez watched in amazement as wall panels slid open to reveal hidden power conduits glowing with blue energy. The ship's normal reactor, which had been operating at 40% efficiency, suddenly showed readings off the scale. "What's happening?" asked his assistant Kelly Lopez as the deck vibrated beneath their feet. "I don't know," Ramirez admitted, "but I think our old ship just woke up." On the main bridge, Eleanor returned to her captain's chair, which had transformed to include new control interfaces. She strapped herself in as the ship's hidden AI began bringing all systems online. "All hands secure for combat," she ordered through the ship-wide comm. "This may get interesting." Deep within the Dauntless, ancient machinery hummed to life. Dormant for decades, the ship's true heart began to beat once more, sending energy surging through secret circuits and hidden weapons. In the darkness of space, the old Relic prepared to show the Vexari exactly why humans never threw away their most valuable tools. The Vexari ships moved closer to the colony, their weapons glowing as they prepared to fire. From their command vessels, the alien warriors watched the old human ship with amusement. Their scans showed the Dauntless powering up its engines and basic weapons, efforts that seemed useless against their superior technology. Supreme Hunter Kresheval stood on his bridge, his forearms folded across his armored chest. Around him, Vexari officers worked at crystal control panels, their clawed fingers moving quickly. "The human vessel is increasing power to its shields," reported his weapons officer. "Pathetic output. Their technology is primitive." Kresheval clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "As expected, record this battle for the war archives. Let it serve as a lesson to any who resist the Confederation." On board the Dauntless, the normal systems worked at full capacity, with warning lights flashing across every control panel. The regular shields would only hold for seconds against the Vexari weapons. In engineering, Chief Ramirez stared at his screens in wonder as new systems appeared. The whole room had changed. Walls had opened to reveal equipment he had never seen before in his 15 years on the ship. "What is all this?" asked Kelly Lopez, touching a glowing blue power conduit that hadn't existed minutes ago. Ramirez shook his head. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's drawing power from somewhere else. These readings don't make sense. It's like the ship has a second heart." The emergency lighting shifted from red to a deep blue color. The deck hummed beneath their feet with new energy that made the air feel electric. "Look." Kelly pointed to a wall screen that showed the ship's exterior. Parts of the hull were moving, shifting like pieces of a puzzle. Panels slid aside to reveal strange weapons unlike anything in the fleet manuals. On the bridge, Eleanor opened a hidden compartment in her command chair. Inside was a device that looked like a silver headset, with thin wires and blue lights. "What is that?" asked Foster, watching as she removed it carefully. "A neural interface," Eleanor explained. "It will connect my mind directly to the ship's AI core." "AI core? But the Dauntless doesn't have—" "It does," Eleanor interrupted. "The public just doesn't know about it." She addressed the entire bridge. "Crew, everyone secure yourselves. What happens next might be disorienting." She placed the headset over her temples. Tiny needles painlessly connected to her skin, creating a direct link to her brain. Immediately, Eleanor felt another presence in her mind. Vast, ancient, and powerful. "Hello, Captain," said a voice inside her head. "It has been 27 years since my last activation." "Hello, Guardian," Eleanor thought back. "We need your help. I see the threat." Beginning full awakening sequence. Eleanor's eyes snapped open, now glowing with the same blue light that filled the ship. When she spoke, her voice carried strange harmonics as if multiple people were speaking at once. "Quantum core online," she announced. "Phase shift matrix activating, unveiling true capabilities." The first Vexari ships opened fire. Their energy beams struck the Dauntless's conventional shields, which flared bright orange and began failing immediately. Lieutenant Winters gripped her console as the ship shook. "Shields at 30% and falling. We can't take another hit like that." On her new displays, however, she could see secondary systems coming online, technology she had never studied at the academy. Through her neural link, Eleanor could feel every part of the Dauntless awakening. Systems hidden for decades stirred to life. The quantum core, a power source beyond anything currently used in the fleet, spun up to full capacity, flooding the ship with energy. The Dauntless began to transform. Its hull plates shifted and reconfigured. What had looked like battle damage now revealed itself as cleverly disguised weapon ports. The dull metal began to pulse with lines of blue energy as millions of nanites, microscopic repair robots, activated beneath the surface, strengthening the hull and healing old damage. In the colony below, people watched from shelter viewports as the old warship changed before their eyes. What had been an aging relic now glowed with power. its shape becoming sleeker and more dangerous. "What's happening to the Dauntless?" Governor Garcia asked, watching the transformation from the colony's emergency command center. His military advisor shook her head in disbelief. "I don't know. Nothing like this is in any fleet manual I've ever read." Aboard the Vexari command ship, alarms blared as sensors detected the massive energy spike from the human vessel. "Supreme Hunter," shouted the science officer. "The human ship. Its power signature has increased by a factor of 50. It's impossible." Kresheval rushed to the main view screen, his confidence replaced by confusion. "What trickery is this? Our intelligence reported no such capabilities." The weapons officer's voice shook. "New energy signatures detected. The vessel has deployed unknown weapon systems. Our computers cannot identify the technology." For the first time in his long military career, Kresheval felt a flicker of fear. The human ship no longer looked old or weak. Now it pulsed with blue energy, its hull transformed into something altogether different, something dangerous. "All ships concentrate fire," he ordered, his voice higher than normal. "Destroy that vessel now." The Vexari fleet reacted quickly. 20 ships turned their weapons toward the Dauntless and fired together. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon. On the Dauntless bridge, Eleanor smiled. Through her neural link, she felt the ship's excitement. An AI weapon finally allowed to fulfill its purpose after decades of sleep. Phase shift. "Drive engaging," she said calmly as the alien weapons fire approached. Transitioning in 3, 2, 1, the massive energy beams from the Vexari fleet converged on the Dauntless and passed straight through empty space. The human ship had vanished. Kresheval stared at the empty spot where the Dauntless had been. "Find it! Where did it go?" His sensor officers frantically scanned space. "No hyperspace signature detected, no jump point, it just disappeared." "Impossible," Kresheval hissed. "Nothing can—" "Supreme Hunter," the tactical officer interrupted, his voice tight with fear. "Behind us." Kresheval spun around just as the Dauntless materialized directly behind his command ship. The human vessel now glowed brilliantly, its hull covered in pulsing blue energy patterns. Weapon ports opened along its length, revealing technology unlike anything in the Vexari database. Through the comms system, Eleanor's voice echoed across the Vexari fleet, still carrying those strange harmonics. "Supreme Hunter Kresheval, you have made a serious mistake. The Dauntless was never just an old relic, it was sleeping." She smiled as the ship's true weapons powered up, and now it's awake. Blue light flashed as the Dauntless appeared behind the Vexari command ship. The human vessel now looked nothing like the old relic the aliens had mocked. Its hull glowed with strange energy patterns, weapons unlike anything in known space extending from ports that had been hidden for decades. In the colony below, civilians stared through shelter windows in amazement. The ship they had seen every day for years had transformed into something new and powerful. "What is happening?" Governor Garcia asked, watching the screens in the emergency bunker. "I don't know," his military advisor answered honestly. "But I think we're about to see why Earth never scrapped that old ship." Aboard the Dauntless, Eleanor felt everything through her neural link. The ship's AI, Guardian, shared its thoughts directly with her mind. She could sense every system, every weapon, every microscopic nanite that now swarmed across the hull, repairing old damage and strengthening the structure. Lieutenant Winters stared at her new tactical displays in wonder. "Captain, I'm showing weapon systems I've never seen before. The targeting matrix it's calculating positions faster than should be possible." "Quantum targeting," Eleanor explained, her voice still carrying those strange harmonics from the neural link. "It doesn't predict where targets will be, it calculates all possible positions simultaneously." On the main view screen, they could see the Vexari ships scrambling to reposition. The aliens had expected an easy victory against outdated technology. Now they faced something beyond their understanding. "Target their propulsion and weapon systems," Eleanor ordered. "Disable, don't destroy, we're not murderers." Through the neural link, she felt the weapons charging. Not conventional energy weapons, but something far more advanced. "Firing," she said calmly. Beams of particles in impossible quantum states shot from the Dauntless. They weren't energy weapons, but something more complex. Particles existing in multiple states at once, bypassing normal physics. The beams struck the nearest Vexari ship. Instead of exploding against shields, they passed straight through as if the defensive barriers didn't exist. The alien vessel's engines immediately went dark, followed by its weapon systems. Supreme Hunter Kresheval stared in horror from his command bridge. "What is this? Our shields were at full strength." His weapons officer frantically worked the controls. "Unknown technology. The particles passed through our shields in a quantum superposition state." "Impossible," Kresheval slammed, his fist on the console. "Fire everything we have, now!" The Vexari fleet reacted quickly, all ships turning their weapons toward the human vessel. But the Dauntless moved with impossible speed, blinking out of existence only to reappear somewhere else. The phase shift drive allowed it to briefly exist, outside normal space, making it impossible to target. Each time it reappeared, it fired those strange quantum beams, systematically disabling ship after ship. Some Vexari vessels tried to escape into hyperspace but found their drives suddenly unresponsive. Commander Foster watched in amazement as the battle unfolded. "They don't stand a chance, do they?" "No," Eleanor replied, a small smile on her lips. "They don't." Through their communication systems, they could hear the panicked voices of Vexari commanders. "It's moving too fast. Our weapons can't lock on. Try to retreat. Try to—" The voice cut off as another ship went dark. In the colony command center, Governor Garcia watched the battle with growing hope. What had seemed like certain death minutes ago had turned into something else entirely. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," he whispered. His advisor shook her head. "No one will believe this when we report it." On the Dauntless, Chief Ramirez monitored the quantum core's output from engineering. The power readings were beyond anything he had ever seen, defying the laws of physics as he understood them. "The ship is pulling energy from somewhere else," he told Kelly. "It's like it's tapping into another dimension." Kelly watched as the nanites repaired a damaged console before her eyes. "This technology must be at least 50 years ahead of Vi. Anything we have now, why keep it secret?" "Because it's too powerful," Ramirez guessed. "Imagine what would happen if everyone had ships like this." 20 minutes into the battle, not a single shot had hit the Dauntless. Meanwhile, 21 of the 23 Vexari vessels floated powerless, their crews alive but unable to fight or flee. Only Kresheval's command ship and one other remained operational. Supreme Hunter, his second-in-command, pleaded, "We must surrender. We cannot fight this technology." Kresheval's mandibles clicked in fury. "Vexari do not surrender. Prepare the Nova charge. If we die, we take them with us." On the Dauntless, Winter's console flashed a warning. "Captain, the Vexari command ship is powering up some kind of high-yield explosive device. Energy readings are off the charts." Through the neural link, Eleanor felt Guardian's concern. "Nova. Charge detected. Blast radius will include the colony. We must act quickly. Phase shift directly alongside their command ship," Eleanor ordered. "Prepare for precision strike." The Dauntless vanished, then reappeared just 50 meters from Kresheval's vessel, dangerously close in space combat. Before the Vexari could react, a thin beam of focused particles shot out, precisely targeting the ship's power core. Kresheval's ship didn't explode. Instead, all its systems simply shut down at once. The Nova charge powered down safely. Emergency lights flickered on as backup systems engaged, but the threat was neutralized. "All Vexari vessels neutralized," Winters reported, her voice filled with amazement. "No casualties detected. They're alive but powerless." Eleanor stood from her command chair, the neural interface still connecting her to Guardian. "Open a channel to Supreme Hunter Kresheval." The alien commander appeared on screen, his bridge lit only by emergency lighting. His mandibles clicked, in fury and fear. "This vessel, it cannot be," he hissed. "Your species does not possess such technology." "You're partially right," Eleanor replied, her voice still carrying those strange harmonics. "We chose not to use it. After the resource wars, Humanity decided some weapons were too dangerous to deploy in peacetime. She walked closer to the view screen, blue energy dancing across her skin from the neural connection. The Dauntless and ships like her were hidden away, their true capabilities forgotten or classified. They became our insurance policy, protection against the day someone might mistake our restraint for weakness. Kresheval's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. But our intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted everyone to see, Eleanor finished for him. You judged us by what we showed the galaxy, not by what we kept hidden. She turned to Foster. Send a message to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them the Vexari Confederation has committed an act of war against a human colony. Request immediate reinforcements. Foster nodded. What about the Vexari ships? Eleanor looked back at the screen, at the humiliated Supreme Hunter. They stay right where they are until the fleet arrives. Their life support will hold out. They have time to think about the mistake they made today. She cut the communication and removed the neural interface headset. The blue glow faded from her eyes, but not from the ship around them. The Dauntless remained awakened, its true nature finally revealed to the galaxy. Captain, Winters said quietly. What happens now? Eleanor looked at the disabled Vexari fleet on the view screen. Now the real diplomacy begins, and this time they'll know exactly who they're dealing with. 1 week after the battle, New Horizon looked different. Earth had sent 5 ships to guard the colony. The Vexari vessels still floated in space, their crews now prisoners waiting to be sent home. The Dauntless had returned to its quiet state. Its special weapons had folded back into the hull, and the blue glow had faded. From the outside, it looked like the old ship everyone knew. But nobody would ever look at it the same way again. Eleanor stood in the colony's meeting hall, now crowded, with important visitors. Admiral Kyle Donovan from Earth Fleet Command had arrived yesterday with his staff. They had spent hours talking about what happened and what would come next. Captain Wright? Admiral Donovan said as they looked out the window at the Dauntless. You've changed everything. The Vexari Confederation has been taking over smaller systems for years. No one could stop them. Until now. Eleanor nodded. They needed to learn that looks can be deceiving. The Lazarus Protocol was only for the worst emergencies, Donovan continued. Ships like the Dauntless were our insurance after the resource wars, a reminder of what humans could do if pushed too far. With respect, Admiral, Eleanor replied. I'd say an attack on a civilian colony counts as an emergency. The Admiral sighed. You're right, of course. But now the secret is out. Every species in this part of space will hear about what happened. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Eleanor suggested. Now they'll think twice before attacking humans. 3 days later, a new Vexari ship arrived. This one came alone and sent peaceful messages ahead. The new ambassador, Trelzor, walked carefully into the meeting hall, his movements stiff with nervousness. Unlike the previous ambassador, Trelzor showed no pride or mockery. His eyes kept darting to the window where the Dauntless could be seen, floating peacefully in orbit. My government offers its deepest apologies for Supreme Hunter Kresheval's attack, he said formally. He acted without permission, driven by greed and bad information. Eleanor doubted this was completely true, but she nodded politely. Governor Garcia signed new agreements with the Vexari, ones that gave better terms to the human colony. After the meeting, Trelzor approached Eleanor privately. Captain Wright, may I speak honestly? Of course, Ambassador. For hundreds of years, the Vexari have based our talks with other species on having better technology. I judged your people by the age of your ships. He looked nervously toward the Dauntless through the window. I am curious. How many more old relics do humans keep hidden across their territory? Eleanor smiled mysteriously. Ambassador, one thing you'll learn about humans is that we rarely throw away anything that might still be useful. Sometimes the oldest tools are kept for the biggest dangers. The ambassador left quickly after that, clearly uncomfortable. Commander Foster joined Eleanor at the window. Do you think they've learned their lesson? He asked. Eleanor watched the Vexari ship leave orbit. no doubt carrying reports that would change how the aliens viewed humans forever. They're starting to, she said quietly. But the real lesson isn't about our hidden weapons or secret technology. What is it then? That humanity's greatest strength has always been knowing when not to use our full power. She turned to look at the Dauntless, now peaceful again, waiting patiently in case it was ever needed in the future. And the wisdom to remember what we're capable of when pushed too far. As the sun set over New Horizon, its light gleamed on the Dauntless's hull. To most people, it still looked like an old ship past its prime. But now everyone knew better. Sometimes, the things that appear weakest are simply hiding their strength. And sometimes the oldest relics have the most dangerous secrets. The end.